Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Andrea. It's nice to have you guys here. Today I have a writing video for you. I haven't really been doing these, but I'm going to try to do, there's quite a few that I have in mind coming up that I want to try to get filmed before the semester starts. So for those who are new here, hi, I'm Andrea. I'm a self-publishing indie author. I have 5 books out right now. I've just finished the first draft of my 6th book, and I'm starting to write my 7th one. Well, I'm continuing to write my 7th one. That is going to be my focus for Camp NaNoWriMo, starting today as you are watching this video, because I'm going to put this up on Friday, July 1st. I'm filming it a couple days ahead. I have just kind of been taking the week off of vlogging, to be honest, and so I just filmed another sit-down video that will be coming up soon. There might be a vlog in between, but yeah, I'm just taking some time to... just taking some time, if that makes sense. But with the start of Camp Nano rapidly approaching, and like I said, it'll be the first day as you are watching this, I thought it'd be fun to share, as someone who does have a lot of experience with writing, some of my favorite tools as a writer. So I'm pretty sure these are all digital tools. Yeah. So they're my favorite digital tools for writing and self-publishing. I'm going to go into more detail on some of these than others, and if there's any of these that you would like a more detailed video just on that one thing, definitely let me know and I can get that added to the list. So starting off, I would say in no particular order, but I do think we're starting with my favorite, and that would be Scrivener. I could not write, well, I mean, technically, I could write my books without Scrivener. I would not want to write my books without Scrivener. So I will say, if you're already an expert at Word or some other word processing program that you love, cool. You do you stick with what makes you happy and you stick with what is already working. All of these tools I'm going to talk about are not something that I think is particularly better or worse than anything else, but they are tools that if you are relatively new to writing, or if you just haven't tried them yet and are still open and still looking for that thing that will become your favorite, these are definitely things to check out. So Scrivener is totally one of them. If you really haven't given Scrivener an honest try, please do. It is the best. I have done 2 videos on Scrivener. One is on how I set it up for my PhD dissertation. The other is how I set up my Scrivener binders for any of my creative writing projects, for any of my novels. Both videos will have advice for both audiences, if that makes sense. So academics can definitely learn some tips and tricks from the Scrivener for my novels video, and creative writers, I feel like I keep getting asked questions about Scrivener for creative writing that I do answer some of those questions in my PhD video. So don't not watch that video because you think it's not relevant, because it is still relevant. And I'm going to be trying to film in the next week or so a video on how I outline in Scrivener. Scrivener's strength, in my opinion, is the way that it helps you organize your draft as you are writing it. So taking you from that outlining stage into the first draft stage through to all of the major developmental edit phases. I really don't leave Scrivener until I get to the copy editing and formatting phase of my books. So the bulk of the outlining, writing, and editing is all done in Scrivener. As a writer, it just has so many different functions and capabilities that just make it absolutely fantastic. Its other strength that I really have yet to find anything similar in any other program. There's a new program on the market called Atticus that I think also has a word count feature, but I still really come back to Scrivener largely because of that word count feature. So I have shown this in both of my other Scrivener videos, but one of the features that is built into Scrivener is the ability to set a word target and a deadline, and then it calculates how many words per day you need to write. So when I set my books up, I tell it my final manuscript is going to be 100,000 words. I want to finish it by this date. I'm going to write Monday through Friday and not on the weekends. And then it automatically tells me how many words per day I need to write to meet that word goal by that deadline if I'm only writing 5 days a week. Now, I tell it only 5 days a week because that means if I miss a day, I can write one of the days over the weekend and make up those words. The thing about the feature that I really love is it automatically recalculates every day. So if you go over your daily word goal one day, if you go over it by enough, the next day your word count will be lower. If you miss a day, it reruns those numbers, recalculates, and your daily word goal goes up. So if you were watching the vlogs as I was wrapping up writing book 2 of Independent Hearts, you'll remember that my daily word goal went from like, at one point it was like up to 17, almost 1,800 words per day that I was having to write. And because I was consistently writing 2,000 words a day, it gradually came down until by the last day that I was writing, the day that I finished it, I was a week out from my goal, my deadline. And so Scrivener was telling me I only needed to write like 736 words or something that day. I finished it that day, so I wrote way more than that, but with the like 6 or 7 writing days I had left, it knew that I only needed to write 700 something words if I was sticking to that original deadline. So that word count feature and the way that it does all the math for me and I don't have to recalculate anything if I write a lot one day or not enough another day, that has been brilliant and really helps with my mindset as I'm writing. So Scrivener is wonderful for a variety of reasons, but I do think it's ease of organizing when you are outlining and drafting, and that word count feature are 2 of the biggest strengths. It's not that expensive, but it is a paid app. It's a one-time fee. It might have gone up a little bit. I want to say I paid like $38 for it. But yeah, if you haven't found a word processing program that you are absolutely in love with and completely married to, give Scrivener a try. The next one, this is more for how I set my mood while I'm writing, and viewers of the vlogs will have seen some of these. I love YouTube for creating that environment, for their kind of environment videos, their ambiance videos. When I was writing my Across the Pond series, which is a contemporary romance series set in London, I would put on tons of virtual walking tours of London, and it almost feels like you're walking in London. And you can find those for a number of other cities. So for the book I'm working on during Camp Nano this month, it's a fictional city and a fictional European country, but it's kind of loosely based and influenced on Prague and kind of just the general like Czech Republic, German, Austrian, that kind of like just vibe. So I've been putting on some walking tours of Prague, and those are just really fun as far as while you're writing, it really helps for me to kind of capture that general feel and like tone and vibe that the characters are kind of the environment the characters are inhabiting. When I was working on Bookshop of Possibilities and Independent Hearts Book 2, which has yet to be titled, that one's set in a small town in the American Midwest. Book 1, I haven't really found any like bookshop videos, but I have found coffee shop videos, and if you read that book, you'll know that next door to the bookshop of the book, there's a coffee shop. And so there's a ton of like virtual coffee shop videos that you can watch. And so there was one in particular that in my head just became the coffee shop from that book. For book 2, it's set largely around a pub, and I found a kind of pub ambiance video, so that one got played a lot. But also I found a lot of English country walks that are just like walks through the English countryside. The series is set in the American Midwest, but the part of the US that the book is set is somewhat reminiscent of the English countryside. So since I couldn't find any Wisconsin walking videos, actually maybe there are some, who knows? It seems like there's just been an explosion of these types of videos, and they really are so helpful as a writer. Just have one of those playing like on my external monitor while I'm writing on my laptop. It just is really, really nice. If I'm not watching one of those videos, the either walking videos or ambiance videos, I'm probably watching a work with me or write with me video. Just really enjoy having one of those on in the background, either ones with music that I can use or ones without music, and then I just create my own music, which leads me into the next one, which is Epidemic Sound and Apple Music. Spotify would also be included on this list if you like Spotify, because I feel like it's pretty much the same thing as Apple Music. It's just not Apple. I don't have Spotify because my family and I all share the Apple family plan, so I have Apple Music. But Apple Music is great for creating curated playlists of popular music for my books, and so Across the Pond series has its own playlist. That one's not one through Apple Music, that's just through my own library and collection. I think I've added some new stuff to it. Independent Hearts also has one that I've created. I need to create one for the Royal Romance series. I'll probably be pulling a lot of stuff from Apple Music for that. If I'm not using Apple Music and like popular music that's available on those streaming services, I'm using Epidemic Sound. So Epidemic Sound is a website that is primarily used by content creators. All the music you have ever heard in my vlogs, well, starting about 2017, so not all of it, but certainly for the last few years, all the music you've heard is pretty much like 99.999% come from Epidemic Sound. I love the website. It is a paid site, it is a paid platform, so you have to pay $15 a month, which for me is worth it, especially because I get double use out of it. So I get to use it for all of my vlogs and videos, but then I also get to use it as a writer. And what I really, really love about Epidemic Sound is you're able to search their library and narrow it down by genre, by mood, by feeling, whatever mood you're trying to set. So you can almost create a very custom soundtrack to your book as a writer. And I just love that. I just absolutely love that. So if I'm writing like a sad breakup scene, I can have instrumental music, like I can go to their small emotion section, then narrow it to solo piano, then narrow it to sad, and boom, the mood is created. So as a writer, I found Epidemic Sound has been really, really helpful if you've got the money to spare and you're really like geeky about setting that writing mood. Epidemic Sound is brilliant because of the way that it does let you create that kind of soundtrack to your writing. So it's not a necessity. I'd say any music streaming platform, if music is even a thing that helps you as a writer, music really affects me as a writer. And so Epidemic Sound has been absolutely brilliant, and as I got into it for my YouTube videos, I very quickly realized this would actually be super helpful for all of my writing. And so I definitely, some days I use Apple Music, or some days I listen to something on YouTube. Other days I'm totally on Epidemic Sound, and I've got my own playlists on there that I can use. Next, Google Maps and Google Earth are really, really helpful. YouTube also helps for this, so this is another way that those virtual walking tours can help. The virtual walking tours can help you kind of describe what a city looks like, what it feels like, how many people are in that area. But Google Maps and Google Earth can also show you more pictures, more information about the businesses that are in that particular area. So if the character is walking down a particular street, I like being able to look up like what are the businesses, what kind of products do they sell. If I want to describe so-and-so stopped and looked at this or that in the window and it made her think about this memory from her childhood. I'm just pulling random examples out, but Google Maps and Google Earth can really help you with that. They're also great for just coming up with ideas as you're outlining. Sometimes you find places that seem really interesting and you're like, oh, I could write a really cool scene set here. So even in the outlining and kind of discovery process, whether you're a plotter or a discovery writer, I think Google Earth and Google Maps can really, really help with coming up with some of those ideas. I remember getting some comments when Brave With You came out, that book is set partially in London, partially in New York City, and I've had a few people say that I write New York City really well. You know, how many times have I visited New York? Because I really apparently nailed it. They're probably being really flattering, but it's still nice because I've never been to New York City, but I watched a bunch of virtual walking videos while I was writing those scenes, and I looked at Google Maps a lot to figure out general layout of the city, to figure out where all the boroughs and whatnot were located. I spoke with friends who had been there, so I did have some beta readers who could kind of check how I'd written it. But yeah, you know, there's a number of things that can help you get a city really right, but in an age of Google Earth and Google Maps and 3D maps and things like that, like, there's really no excuse anymore to not get details of a real physical location correct. And I know that as a reader, I really appreciate it when I can tell that the author has either visited that place extensively and knows those details, or has clearly done their research and knows those details. So separate from Google, so I don't use Google as a search engine. I use DuckDuckGo. So DuckDuckGo is a great search engine for writers because your search history is private. So it's really great for searching for things that I'm looking for in the books when I want all of my data and my search history to be private. This is a little less relevant for me because I write romance, but if I were writing thrillers or mysteries or murder mysteries, I would definitely be using something like DuckDuckGo. You know, you never know what random stuff you have to search for when you're writing. I've never had to search for anything that particularly dark, but I've definitely searched random, and I don't want all of that then popping up the next time I'm on Facebook or something. Like, just because I'm searching for the cost of a commercial oven doesn't mean I want to buy a commercial oven. Just because I'm searching for wedding dresses doesn't mean I'm getting married and I don't need to see ads for wedding related stuff. Thank you very much. Final website, I don't always use it, but Pinterest, something that I want to get into using more. I really do think, especially if you're a visual person like I am, Pinterest is great for creating mood boards, for kind of starting that generative discovery process when you're outlining. Before I start actually outlining, I do like kind of creating a mood board, even if it's just in my head or just saving a bunch of images on Instagram. But yeah, Pinterest is great for any kind of visual mood board that you want to create for your books. So if you haven't thought of that, I feel like a lot of people have, but it was still worth mentioning, and it is still one of my favorite tools, even if I don't use it all the time. When it comes to book production and marketing, so all of the tools I've just talked about are more for that outlining, writing, and kind of editing process. But when it comes to copy editing, formatting, cover design work, and marketing images, there's 4 websites I wanted to mention. So ProWritingAid is one that I have been kind of trying out for the past year. In full disclosure, I have let my subscription to it lapse, but just because I'm gonna wait. I'm waiting to see if the lifetime option comes up for sale again closer to when I need it for book 2. So I will not copy edit my next book without ProWritingAid, but I don't currently subscribe to it as I am filming this. But I used it for Brave Together. I used it for More Than Fate as well, I think. I think that was the first book, and then I used it for for Bookshop of Possibilities and for Brave Together. So I've done at least 2, if not 3 books using ProWritingAid. So ProWritingAid, I feel like more people have probably heard of Grammarly. It's similar to Grammarly in that it's a desktop extension. You can get a browser extension. You can also get a desktop app. I like the app because it integrates with Scrivener. So I can open my Scrivener file in ProWritingAid, and it saves everything to that file. It runs all of these reports, shows you all of the mistakes that you need to correct, and then you correct the ones that you want to correct, and then save it, and it's all saved in that file. What I also really like about ProWritingAid is, from what the research I've done, it does sound like it's a little bit more sensitive than Grammarly is. And I like that it explains, I think Grammarly might do this. I've not really tried Grammarly, so someone who's used it can let me know in the comments. But what I like about ProWritingAid is it doesn't just tell you this is wrong or you've made a mistake. It tells you what rule you've actually broken. And so then you can decide if you want to fix it or not. One of my favorites is when it catches that I've done a split infinitive, it'll tell me, you know, you're using a split infinitive. Some people strongly object to the use of a split infinitive. I worry about people who strongly object to split infinitives, but I like that ProWritingAid tells me when I've done something that has broken some kind of rule, but then I still get to decide if I care that I've broken that rule or not, and I can decide I'm actually going to ignore that rule and do what I want. It also means that if the rule that's being broken is in a line of dialogue, I might be less likely to fix it, because maybe that's just how that character speaks. It catches little things that I might not catch as I'm just reading it on myself. I always do a final like visual proofread, but ProWritingAid has been really good for catching some of those little mistakes that I'd be less likely to catch because it's not exactly wrong, it's just also not exactly right, if that makes sense. So ProWritingAid has been really helpful for the copy editing process, because by the time I get to copy editing, I am so brain dead, and I have looked at that book several times throughout the content and developmental editing phase. So like, I am so close to those words that I can't see a lot of the mistakes. ProWritingAid is definitely something I'm going to subscribe to or purchase when I get ready to copy edit the next book. There's a monthly fee, an annual fee, or a lifetime fee, but they do run at least once a year. I think there was a Black Friday sale, but I think they do one in the spring as well. And also check through like Dave Chesson and Kindlepreneur and Joanna Penn through her podcast. A lot of the other kind of big names in the indie author self-publishing world have affiliate codes with some discounts, I think, so that's what I'm kind of scoping out for. I tried out the annual subscription for the first year, really liked it, decided that I will eventually just buy the lifetime subscription option so that it's just kind of a one fee and then I'm done and I just own it outright. So yeah, ProWritingAid is fantastic. The next one, I'm going to try to be concise. There's not a whole lot to say other than I just absolutely love this program. Vellum. Vellum has saved my sanity when it comes to formatting. Now, I do know that there is a free formatting tool on the website Draft Digital, and that's definitely something to investigate. I really wish I'd known that for my first book. I did all of the formatting for both the Kindle and the paperback for A Brave Start on Word, and it just killed a part of my soul inside. It's not cheap. It was $269. It was the best $270 I have ever spent, especially on my books, but it's not cheap, I do admit that. But it took me from a process that was at least 5 hours for the Kindle and up to several days for the paperback to formatting both formats, Kindle and paperback, in 15 minutes, if not less. I now use Vellum when I am just putting together my beta reader copies so that it looks like an actual formatted book like they would purchase. I will never stop singing Vellum's praises. I know we should never say never. Maybe one day they'll totally screw their program up, but I haven't even used Vellum 3 yet. They've got a whole new version that I need to upgrade to. I haven't even used that one, and that one looks even cooler. So yeah, if you're an indie author looking to really get serious about this, Vellum, if you are happy using the free tool on Draft Digital or something like that, then Vellum might not be a worthy investment for you. But if you were already thinking of hiring a formatter, Vellum makes formatting so easy. Vellum kind of will eventually pay for itself within just like 3 or 4 books. So again, I wouldn't have bought it for my first book, but by the time I was getting ready for my second book, I knew I was in self-publishing for the long haul, and it was one of the first big investments I made, and I have not regretted it since. Last 2 things. Photoshop. I use Photoshop for doing my covers, so if you've heard me talk about my books before, I design all of my own covers. My sister did the illustration for book 1, and Tamsin and I had a friend of hers do the illustration for book 2. but I still have done all the paper back covers, front cover, back spine, back cover as far as the design and layout. And for the last few books I've put out, I've done the illustrations as well. And so I use Photoshop not just for laying out the full paper back cover, the front illustration, the spine and the back cover, and all of the text, but I also use it for finishing up the illustration. Love Photoshop. If, like me, you do your own covers, Photoshop is a great thing to use. If you're just looking for something to handle light graphic design for social media, I feel like everyone knows about Canva, but just in case, Canva.com is a great tool for any indie author. If you are creating your own social media graphics for Facebook, for Instagram, if you're creating graphics for Facebook ads, Canva is the place to go. It takes everything about graphic design and just makes it super easy. Lots of click and drag and drop. I don't yet subscribe to the pro version, but as I'm starting to look through it more, particularly at the photos and the illustrative elements, I can see myself being drawn to some of the pro options, and it's starting to sound like something I will use. That being said, I have been using Canva for several years now, between YouTube and now my writing. I've been using the free version and have been really happy with it so far. So yeah, that's something else to think about. And with that, I think I'm done. If you are starting a writing project in general, or if you are starting a writing project for Camp NaNoWriMo this month in particular, hopefully some of these tools will help out. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Let me know in the comments, what is your favorite writing tool? Is it one that I have mentioned, or is it something else? I'm always looking for new things that can help me as a writer, so I would love to know in the comments your favorite writing tool. I will see you all very soon in the next video. Thank you very much for watching this one. Bye!